Jennifer, these last two episodes on Let's Talk Influence was, I don't know about the audience, but I'm enjoying it.
I
But
hope
I'm
they
sure,
are too.
I'm sure there, some feedback is very good feedback coming. And what I like with the last episode is you have to be real, as you do these stories. I like that word real. You can just do a story, but then you need to enjoy it. You need to feel it. You need to bring the emotional connect to it. But Jennifer, I closed the last program with a question. In your experience of 30 years plus, you've interviewed chief ministers, you've interviewed some very high profile people, and you've also done stories in the village in a small shop. Every story has got a dynamic, right?
Yes.
It's that space you bring in, it's that kind of storytelling you bring in. How do you manage this whole thing, right from this level to on the road you're doing a story? How do you enjoy doing it? How do you get that background?
Going back to the word enjoy, I'd love it when I would run out into the field and talk with somebody who was walking down the road,
Right.
and ask them to speak to me. And also when I have had to go to somebody who's very important, maybe some celebrity, maybe some very important person, it's got its own charm. It's really got its own charm. I always used to think, and I still do, that it's the man in the street who is very, very important because he has the pulse of what's going on. He's not going to tell you a lie. He's going to say,
The reality.
this is the way it is. This is what they did to me, or this is what happened. This is what happened.
As raw as it can get.
That's right. So I think that's what it is. I was very privileged to cover the tsunami in 04, and I spent 14 days in Nagapattinam. What an experience! What an amazing experience to tell the story, to tell that story. It is a privilege when you can go out into the field and actually meet the people who are affected. And everybody was affected. So as a result, I think that when you can go out and tell the man in the street, his story is the real one. I believe that his story is the real one. We were doing the Veerappan story, and we had the local villages around there, and they would say, oh yes, Veerappan came here and he told us not to say anything to anybody, particularly to journalists, okay? You not to say anything to them, and we'll do this for you, we'll do that for you. So what am I saying? I'm saying that the man in the street is the one who's giving you the true facts.
The pulse.
He's giving you the pulse. He's not going to doctor his story. What can he say?
Correct.
He can just say that this is what happened. And that's what your job is, to take his story and bring that in front of the people who are watching. Somebody sitting in Chennai, do they know what's happened in the villages around Veerappan? Do they know what has happened in maybe Salem or wherever, whichever part of the country you're in? They don't know. They will only hear what you are bringing to them. You are such a messenger. I think that's the key word here. You're a messenger of what is going on in different parts of the country. And that, I think, is your moral responsibility, if one can call it that. Yes, I think that it is your job. It is your duty. It's not the money that you're paid for. It's not that. That doesn't count at all. Are you going to sit back and say, I did a good job today. That was really what happened. Never mind what anybody else thinks, that it didn't happen. You know in your mind what happened. And I think that's very important. Yes.
Jennifer, talking about, we spoke about the man on the street. What about high profile? You're meeting a chief minister, you're meeting somebody. I mean, is it because there's time constraint?
Yes.
They have an aura about, it's a personality. How do you approach that kind of a story?
Those stories were nice. They had their own charm about it, because I think the first thing as a journalist is you should not be intimidated by anybody you're talking to. I believe that person is somebody very important. But I, in my own very humble and little way, am also doing what I think I can do well. And I think that's very, very important.
But for those who are listening to this episode, when you talk about stories, when you're talking about enjoying getting the story done, I like the word you said, you are actually a bridge between...
A messenger.
I like the word the messenger. So every storyteller or everyone who's putting their stories on YouTube or whatever platform, they're actually a messenger.
Yes.
So if they're a messenger, they're carrying a message. So what are the key responsibilities? I know you're telling, enjoy the story, speaking truth. make sure you like it. But there's somebody who's new to the line, who's saying, you know what, I think I want to be that messenger.
Right.
What kind of qualities you picked up as you were coming into this line? What were some takeaways which you feel no negotiations in that?
Right.
What would that be?
I would say the most important thing, the operative word here is new, because when young people are going into this industry, they want to climb to the top within 1 month. It doesn't happen.
They don't want to wait.
They don't want to wait. You got to earn your spurs, Ashvin. You've got to be going through the mill. Anybody who's anybody today in this field has been around a long time. They have really learnt the hard way. So, of course, there's a lot to be said for the fact that if you could have some very basic training. What's the physical way of writing that story? What's the way you can word your whole episode? Who are the people you can bring into that story? Who are the crucial people? Who are the crucial elements to tell that story? These are the little things that matter. And sometimes, you will find that people will go out and maybe speak to their uncle or their auntie or somebody like that and get what they want them to say. No. You cannot do that ever. You've got to be true to yourself because you know whether you've done that or not. And I think that's a very, very important thing because there's nothing worse than somebody plagiarizing your story or there's something, that's really not acceptable to me, at least. I don't know about anybody else. I don't think it's right.
In the next episode, Jennifer, we're going to talk about probably some of the best stories you enjoyed. I know every story is good.
Everything is
but
good.
But the one which you really liked personally, and also talking about key takeaways for people who are coming into this line. Because there are many who are saying, you know what, I want to be that messenger. I want to write. I want to produce this show on YouTube. I want to produce this show for television. You know what, I want to capture testimonies, stories, or whatever. I think for those, we are giving some very foundational steps.
Yes.
Talking about passion, you're talking about enjoying the work, talking about creating the ambience. And there's so much takeaways which I'm signaling, I'm getting from what you're saying. But as one takeaway in this episode, talking about getting the story out, what's the one thing you would like to leave for this episode audience when it comes to storytelling?
Well, to get the story out, you have got to have done your homework. You have to have done homework because otherwise you're not going to get the true essence of what you want to tell your viewers. And I think this applies to every form of journalism, whether it's print, whether it's television, whether it's radio. Right. That is, I think, the basic element. And when young people are going to actually get into the field, there's no room for error. And two is, even if you fail, it doesn't matter. Pick it up and go again. I could never, ever imagine ever saying to myself that, oh, that was a bad story. No, my idea has always been, what am I going to do the next day? Can I rectify it? Can I do something different? Can I make my next story on this same subject better? Maybe I can. Even if I have to stay awake all night and think of what are the better words, because that's very, very important. You cannot accept failure. You must not accept failure. You could make 1,000,000 mistakes, but that doesn't matter. There's always another day. There's another morning for the next story to come out. And if you have an editor who would guide you, trust you, show you the way, if you are in an organization, nothing like it, I think.
Jennifer, we have 1 more minute. I really want you to pick it up on the homework. I like the word homework. How important is research in this homework?
Research is quite important, I think, when you're doing a story, but you can't waste too much time on it because you've only got 1 minute, 1.5 minutes. Well, if you're an NDTV who had 1.5 minutes, that's a very short time. And every bite was never allowed to be more than 10 seconds. So where does you go? How much research can you put? This is not as if you're doing some very learned medical research or, things like that. No. Basic story. What's happened? How did it happen? Who was responsible? What's the outcome of the story? What's happening after that? Is there investigation going on? Are people trying to see why? Why did this happen? How did it happen? How did the bridge fall down? How did it happen? That's very important, because if I'm a viewer, I want to know, why did the bridge fall? Somebody's died. It could have been my member of my family. So I think that's very important. That research, you don't need to over-research anything, especially in the news business. If you're doing a documentary, yes, it needs amazing amount of research. But if you're not doing a documentary, no. People don't want to. How much can you put into 1.5 minutes? That's the bottom line, yes.
Jennifer, I'm just enjoying this episode, and in the next episode, we're going to find out more on what stories you enjoy. I know every story you enjoy, but there were some stories which really stand apart in your experience, of either a person or personality, and we're going to find out about the story behind the story.
Okay.
And thanks for joining in today's episode. I'll see you in the next episode of Let's Talk Influence.
Thank you.